Part 15. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 141. Chapter 141 Twin Sisters. Tanyuj kept staring at her, Jian-yuman, with more smiles in his eyes. I was very surprised when I saw my younger siblings for the first time. At the University of California where I studied, there was the most beautiful woman in the school. She looked very similar to my younger siblings. When I first saw her, I thought she was the beauty of our school. Like the second sister-in-law, Tang Xingai also joined the topic with interest. Yes, the two of them look exactly the same, Tang Yuj replied with a smile. Tang Feishan was slightly surprised when he heard this. No wonder when my elder brother saw Li Li for the first time, he said where he had seen her before. Is there anyone who looks exactly like Li Li in this world? This is amazing. Exactly the same, Qi Zhan frowned slightly, thinking. Yes. She is the goddess of all the men in our California University. She is good at studying and beautiful. Her personality is much different from that of her younger siblings. She is more lively and cheerful. Jian-yuman's breathing also became slower. Her eyes did not look at Tanyuj, but at her father. She had already guessed what Tanyuj would say, and what she cared about most at the moment was her father's reaction, whether he would show disgust or say words that he didn't want to mention her. Jian-yuman looked at Qi Zhan, and her father Qi's reaction made her feel warm inside, and her nose was sore that she almost cried. But Manman, Qi Zhan's voice was a little excited, and he even stood up from his seat. The expressions on his face were shock, joy, longing, and sadness. Countless complex expressions appeared on his face in just a moment. Tanyuj raised his eyebrows slightly. What? Uncle Qi also knows about the beauty of our school, Jian-yuman. 1000. Have you changed your surname or name? Finding that he had lost his composure, he sat back down. We know her. How could she not know her? She is my other daughter, Li Li's twin sister. Of course she looks exactly the same. Qi Zhan had a smile on his face, his eyes were slightly red, and there was sadness in his eyes. Unexpectedly, she went to study at the University of California, and she seemed to be doing very well. Looking at Qi Zhan's sad expression and the fact that Qi Li's twin sister was not named Qi and had never appeared before, everyone naturally guessed that there were many stories involved. There was a tacit agreement not to discuss too much and to move the topic to other places casually. Everyone present had mixed emotions. The most complicated one was Jian-yuman. She thought she would see disgust on her father's face, but she didn't expect that he would lose his composure because of it. She could also see a variety of complex expressions on his face. It wasn't that he didn't miss her at all. Even very excited. Tang Xingai looked at Qi Lil intriguingly. He knew clearly that his teacher's name was Jian-yuman, but he didn't expect that they were actually twins. Tanyuj looked at Jian-yuman, the smile on his lips became thicker, and he ordered the wine and took a few sips in a good mood. A few people chatted casually. Tanyuj basically drank in silence, occasionally looking at Jian-yuman or saying a few words to his brothers. Jian-yuman didn't quite understand what Tanyuj was thinking. She thought she had sworn that she was his wife just like the previous times, but in the end she didn't ask any follow-up questions and didn't tell him about her relationship with him. She couldn't see through the current Tanyuj, let alone what he was thinking. Tang Feishan went to the toilet in the middle of the journey, and Qin Yi Man also followed him out. Hand on Tang Feishan, who was about to approach the toilet, a faint smile appeared on his face. Fei Chen, let me ask you a question. Tang Feishan smiled slightly. Why is the problem so mysterious? What kind of person is your elder brother? End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 142. Chapter 142, finding out about Mr. Tang's personality. Tang Feishan was slightly startled. Why are you so interested in my eldest brother? Qian Yuman slightly twitched the corners of his mouth and smiled. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean anything else. I just think your eldest brother is a bit frivolous and I haven't had much contact with him. I'm just curious about what kind of person he is. Tang Feishan couldn't help laughing after hearing Qian Yuman's words. This is the first time I heard someone describe my elder brother as frivolous. Originally, you and Mr. Tang give people completely different impressions. I wonder if you are brothers. Could he be a playboy? I saw many women around him at the engagement party last time. Tang Feishan smiled softly. My eldest brother only attracts girls. I have never seen him bring a woman home. There seems to be no shortage of women around him, but none of them are too close. My third brother and I are still teasing him in private about his liking for men. Qian Yuman felt relieved after hearing Tang Feishan's words. Ever since she met Tang Yuj again, she felt very anxious and was in a bad mood for several days. The image of Tang Yuj teasing her would always come back to her mind, and she was worried that he had many women outside and liked to tease pretty women. After getting in touch with him in the past few days, she has a completely new understanding of Tang Yuj. It is so different from the Mr. Tang she knew in the past that it is inevitable that she will be troubled. Who gave your eldest brother a face like a flower? It's easy to attract bees and butterflies. It was safer and more reliable to wear glasses before, but now he has a face that can be snatched away at any time. This is what Qian Yuman is worried about. Her husband is simply a walking aphrodisiac. He can seduce the hearts of little girls wherever he goes, and he can easily give people the feeling of a playboy. And your elder brother always looks at me strangely when eating, which makes me very uncomfortable. Qian Yuman frowned, looking very distressed. Brother said just now that he thought you looked like the belle of their school, so he paid more attention to you. I'm curious, I've never heard you say that you have a twin sister before. You didn't ask, so I didn't answer, Qian Yuman said indifferently. Why her sister didn't mention it? She could guess that having a twin sister was not unusual, and since they hadn't seen each other for 5 years, most people probably didn't know that Qilili had a twin sister. Without saying anything more, Qian Yuman inquired a little bit, not wanting to ask too much, otherwise Tang Fei would be suspicious. Tang Fei sank into the men's room, while Qian Yuman rubbed her chin thoughtfully and walked into the women's room to wash her hands. The door to the toilet suddenly opened, and a tall figure came up behind Qian Yuman at lightning speed. Before she could react, he covered her mouth and dragged her into the cubicle. Qian Yuman's eyes widened, she was really startled, and she grabbed the hand covering her mouth in horror. When she saw clearly who the man was who was touching her, she was furious. It's him again. Qian Yuman slapped his hand away angrily and warned him with her eyes. Tang Yuj smiled brightly, looked at her angrily with the corners of his lips curled up, and let go of his hand under her warning eyes. As soon as he let go of his hand, Qian Yuman growled at him. What are you doing? Tang Yuj stretched out his index finger, lifted her chin, and looked at her carefully. Facing her angry face, the smile at the corner of his mouth became even stronger. She is indeed my wife. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 143. Chapter 143. I'm going to shout. She is indeed my wife, Tang Yuj said confidently. The smile at the corners of his mouth and eyes became thicker, and his charming eyes were so captivating that Qian Yuman forgot to deny that she was his wife for a moment. How come he recognized himself again? If she had suspected before that Tang Yuj liked to tease pretty girls when he saw them, now there was a question mark behind this question in her mind. Tang Feishan said that his eldest brother is not a playboy, but that doesn't mean he doesn't like flirting with girls. It's inevitable that when he sees a woman who looks exactly like his wife, he can't help but flirt with her. She was very surprised why Tanyuj called her wife every time he saw her. She and her sister looked exactly like each other, and they were so similar that even their parents would be teased by the two of them when they were children. They often exchanged identities to experience life, and no one would ever notice them. They also use this as a game. When they are bored, they swap identities to amuse others. But this trick seemed to be ineffective in front of Tanyuj. Once he saw her, he said she was his wife. It seems that I need to ask my sister when I get home if she teased her the same way when she met Tanyuj. So far, Jian Yuman has not told her sister that her husband is her future uncle. The first reason is that she is afraid of scaring her if he tells her. The second reason is that she has not known Tanyuj yet. If her sister bothers to introduce them to each other, she will how to answer? I was afraid that my sister would force her to confess why she married Mr. Tang in the first place. If my sister found out, she would definitely ignore her being pregnant and make her kneel on the keyboard. She would also yell at her for being an idiot. It would be a gloomy few days. She would be beaten by her sister every day. Treat with a blank stare. She plans to talk to her sister about her relationship with Tanyuj after some time. Mr. Tang, you are going too far. Don't always call me wife. Don't you know that your brother is in the men's room next door? Believe it or not, I shouted. Jian Yuman turned her head and denied it angrily. At the beginning, I didn't tell her my true identity and even disappeared. Now I want to be happy and get my wife smoothly. There is no way. Tanyuj raised his eyebrows, and some ruffians spread their hands. You can call, just in time to call my brother over and formally introduce you to each other. You, Jian Yuman felt angry for a while. She really didn't dare to shout. She just tried to scare him. You always call me wife. Who is your wife? She pretended not to know. It's you, Jian Yuman. Jian Yuman pretended to be shocked. Her mouth was long enough to hold a tea egg. She covered her mouth with her left hand and raised her voice slightly. Jian Yuman? My sister? Are you married? Jian Yuman's disguise was genuine. If Tanyuj was not sure that she was Jian Yuman, he would have been fooled by her. Unfortunately, during the meal just now, he carefully confirmed whether she was his wife. No, you are my wife, not Lili's sister-in-law. Tanyuj shook his head with a smile, brought his head closer, and gently rubbed the tip of the other's nose with the tip of his nose as they did when they were intimate in the past. This was the intimate contact they loved. After speaking, he kissed the back of her hand that was covering her mouth, and wrapped his hands around her slender waist. Oh, Mr. Tang is acting like a hooligan again. If nothing happens, use your hands and feet. Jian Yuman was a little angry, but she actually felt guilty. She felt that she was Jian Yuman and couldn't be satisfied with it. No matter how she acted in front of Mr. Tang, it would be useless. However, she was thick-skinned and refused to admit it, so what else could he do? End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 144. Chapter 144. The toilet seat collapsed. I'm not. Jian Yuman puffed up her cheeks angrily and reached out to push him away. However, the arm seemed to be glued to her waist, and the body was also close to each other, pressing her against the door. They were intimate with each other, without shame or impatience. Now if someone opens the door of the toilet cubicle, they will definitely think that they are having an affair in the toilet. Don't go too far. Do you know that this is sexual harassment? I can sue you. No matter how extreme you do to your wife, it's not harassment. Tanyuj's lips came together again, and he directly kissed the little woman in front of him who was denying her in every possible way until he admitted it, but she turned her head to avoid it. The approaching mouth still smelled of alcohol, which made Jian Yuman, who loved drinking, cover her mouth with her hands and look away sadly. She could not smell the smell of alcohol after becoming pregnant. I've already told you that I'm not my sister. Why don't you believe it? Or are you saying that you did it on purpose and just wanted to use it to touch me? Besides, it's not even clear whether my sister is your wife. If you try to touch me again, don't blame me for going too far like last time. His kicks in the lower part too many times will make her worry about her future happy life. Tanyuj didn't take her denial seriously. He still kept his hands on her waist and had a naughty smile on his lips. Is it my wife? Let me see. There is a red mole on my wife. The devil's claws grabbed the collar of her front, and she immediately grabbed her own collar. She pouted and looked at him angrily. Her hands firmly grasped the collar. If she pulled it off, it would be useless to argue. They are a couple who have had nothing to do with each other. Tanyuj knows all about the moles on her body. How could Jianyuman really let him see them? Don't go too far, you still want to see my breasts. Honey, please be lenient if you confess, be lenient if you resist, if you deny it again, be careful, I'll kill you directly in the toilet. Speaking of which, we haven't done anything embarrassing outside the house. I don't mind letting my father-in-law and brothers outside at all. Wait. It would be fun if they came to catch you. The smile on Tanyuj's face became deeper and deeper, his exposed eyes admiring Jianyuman's blushing face. Sure enough, teasing and kissing your wife is the most fun. Jianyuman blushed even more, she was angry. Tanyuj was indeed the embodiment of a gangster, a shameless model of the era. Jianyuman looked at him and then at the devil's claws, recalling in her mind the methods her sister taught her to deal with perverts. Jianyuman wrapped her hands around Tanyuj's arm, and when she was caught off guard, she used her calf to sweep his calf hard, and pushed him towards the toilet with a hard push. Tanyuj sat down on the toilet. Although Tanyuj looked quite thin, his whole body was full of muscles and he weighed a lot. After sitting down, the toilet lid collapsed and broke. She didn't expect it to succeed, and she was also surprised. When Jianyuman saw this scene, the corners of his mouth split open. He immediately opened the door and ran out, glancing at Tanyuj with some gloating. After walking out of the women's room, she tidied up her appearance, returned to the private room elegantly, and successfully shook off Tanyuj. I still regret in my heart why the toilet lid is closed. If it were not closed, Mr. Tang would sit down in the toilet and his would probably get wet. Jianyuman returned to the private room, and no one had any reaction. When Tanyuj limped in, holding his buttocks, everyone couldn't help but look sideways. What happened to his butt? Why do you keep covering your butt? Brother, you have burst hemorrhoids and your walking posture is wrong, Tang Xingai laughed directly. The private room burst into laughter instantly, and Jianyuman could no longer hold back her laughter. Mr. Tang glanced at his wife in embarrassment. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 145. Chapter 145 Mr. Tang is too smart. After the dinner, faced with Tang Feishan's date and going back to her father's house, Jianyuman decisively chose to leave with Chi's father. Let's not talk about Tanyuj's scorching gaze. If she went on a date with Feishan in front of him, it would be her instead of him kneeling on the keyboard from now on. Besides, the advantage of going back with her father is that she can turn around and go home, and her date with Tang Feishan will inevitably end up until dark. Jianyuman waved goodbye happily. When she got home, her father went to work in the study. Jianyuman was not in a hurry to leave. She glanced around the house and walked around the house in confusion. Why didn't she see her stepmother after she came twice? Are you going out to play? She is indeed an unruly woman. If she doesn't stay at home well, she will run away. It doesn't matter if you haven't seen her, but if you do, you'll be embarrassed to death. I'm afraid that if you see your stepmother, you won't be able to help but slap her. If it weren't for that bitch's intervention, how could my parents get divorced and eventually break up? If that incident had not happened, she would not have stopped contacting her family in the past few years, and she still dares not meet her father as manman. After resting for a while, Qian took a taxi home and found her sister, who was sweating in the gym. Qian was still holding a slipper in her hand. "Smelly old girl," Qian shouted and rushed over. Qi Lili saw her sister rushing towards her angrily, turned around and ran away, begging for mercy again and again. "Sister, I know I was wrong. You are pregnant now, so you should be careful. You also know my abilities, and I am afraid of accidentally hurting you." Qi Lili ran and begged for mercy. She was not afraid of being beaten, but was afraid of being accidentally hurt. "Qian, you still know you are wrong. Why did you ask me to take the exam for you? You are just trying to trick me and Dad to eat. You are thinking about your sister. Let's see if she can help you next time," Qian threatened. "Sister, I know I'm wrong. I don't want you to talk to Dad more and make up early so that the three of us can sit down and have a meal. Who makes you avoid Dad all the time and don't want to go to see Dad with me? It's a helpless move. Just because my intention is good, please spare my sister." Qian laughed coldly. If she hadn't known that her sister's purpose was for her own good, she would have had a baseball bat instead of slippers. "You're such a small-minded person. Do you know that City S is neither big nor small? It's a coincidence that I met the three brothers of the Tang family today." As soon as Qian finished speaking, Qi Lili stopped and looked at her sister in surprise. "What? Have you met Feishan and the others?" Qian chased after her and slapped her sister on the with her slipper. Qi Lil screamed instantly, rubbed her and ran away again. "Sister, I know I was wrong. Don't hit me. I believe that with my sister's intelligence, I can successfully hide them from them. Who makes my sister as beautiful as a flower, a great beauty who combines intelligence and beauty." Qi Lil patted the horse. "Hide it all," but her husband finally found out. However, the praise was still very effective, and Qian was very happy to be photographed. Tired of chasing, Qian gave up the chase and sat down on the sofa to rest. She patted the sofa next to her and called her sister over. She still had some questions to ask her. "Lili, have you ever gotten along with the eldest son of the Tang family?" "Have eaten twice." Qi Lili approached with small steps, and only dared to approach after seeing Qian throw off her slippers. "Then has he ever said anything strange to you or done anything strange?" Kylie held her chin up and thought for a while, then shook her head. "Not really. It's just that his eyes are scrutinizing every time he looks at me, but there's nothing else strange about him." When Qian heard her sister's words, she couldn't help but smile. It seemed that Mr. Tang really knew who she was. Although Qian was quite angry at Tang Yu's frivolous behavior, in the end she was still very happy. Every time they meet, he can tell who she is and how much she holds in his heart. She had thought that he would test them every time he saw them, but it turned out that these questionings were only directed at her. It's no wonder that Qian was unhappy, and the unhappiness in her heart disappeared at this moment. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 146. Chapter 146 Scare Tang Xinglu. Mr. Tang is a wise man. Seeing that he has performed well, please forgive him in a few days. Let her disappear for a while and punish him for a few more days. Qian has made up her mind that the punishment can end early, but she still plans to hide the matter between her and her sister. Qian put her arms around her sister's shoulders and said with a smile, I heard today that Tang Xinglu can get out of bed and go out to play. The two sisters looked at each other in tacit understanding, having read the meaning in each other's eyes, and calculations flashed in their beautiful eyes. That evening, Tang Xinglu came back from outside. She would be sent to a ladies' school in a few days, and she felt very depressed. She saw an annoying figure Chi Lili in the distance. She wanted to run over angrily, but she saw the figure moving past. When she ran over, the figure passed behind her again. She turned around in panic, and the figure stood some way again. From a long distance, his face was still glowing with green light. Tang Xinglu was completely frightened. She screamed and rushed into the villa. On the way, she met the second sister-in-law with a green face. Why are the second sister-in-law's scary faces everywhere, and the second sister-in-law is not dead? Why are there ghosts who look like the second sister-in-law? Woo woo woo. Could it be that she was in unbearable pain, angry, and thinking about things every day, which led to hallucinations at night? From that night on, Tang Xinglu, who was finally able to go out to play, was so frightened that she never dared to go out again before going to the ladies' school. She even dared not walk at night for a long time in the future. The two sisters Chi and Yuman who performed a haunted scene were bent over with laughter. Under their feet were scooters and skates. Just now they relied on these two tools to pretend to be ghosts and scare Tang Xinglu. This is also the most interesting revenge method that the two of them have come up with. They often used this method to scare people when they were children. The next day Chi and Yuman came to school. She drove her newly purchased car into the school quietly. When she came to the office, her colleague Julie asked Qian Yuman gossiping. "Teacher Qian, why don't you change a car to drive today? Where is your sports car?" Qian Yuman was stunned for a few seconds, and then she realized that teacher Julie was talking about the car driven by her sister, and she smiled slightly with a smile. "Sent it for maintenance. Next time, come and give me a ride. I've never been in a sports car in my life." A sarcastic voice sounded from the side. It was Hewan, the Chinese teacher in the next class. "I think the car I drove last time wasn't yours. You didn't ask a rich friend to borrow it to show off your wealth, and now you're returning the car to him out of vanity. You." Julie angrily wanted to help Qian Yuman find Hewan to argue, but Qian Yuman held her back. "Not to mention, Hewan is still somewhat right. Don't argue with her. No matter how much you argue, the other party won't be able to drive a sports car. I'm afraid no friends will be able to borrow it." Hewan was annoyed after hearing what Qian Yuman said and wanted to continue arguing. The bell rang for class. Qian Yuman took the materials directly to class, so as not to associate with such superficial people who only know how to laugh at others. Qian Yuman walked into the school with her textbooks in hand and raised her eyebrows slightly when she saw the reactions of her classmates. The classmates were unusually quiet. They were all sitting upright and surprisingly well behaved. Before she came in, she was always making noises and saying hello. Qian Yuman placed the materials in her hands on the podium, crossed her hands on her chest, and showed a faint smile on her lips. "Why, you are so good today." Luo Xingqing, the most noisy student, raised his hand tremblingly and asked. "Teacher, how are you feeling today?" End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 147. Chapter 147. The identity swap was discovered. Qian Yuman raised her eyebrows slightly, looking at a pair of young and innocent eyes looking at her, each with a serious expression, fearing that she would curse in the next moment. Qian Yuman deliberately kept a straight face, glanced around seriously, and looked at the students sitting at attention with cold eyes. "If you act too naughty," Qian Yuman slammed the table and shouted, "you will face a terrifying teacher." Qian. The expression on Qian Yuman's face changed again. Her smile was full of smiles and she was much more cordial. "The teacher is in a good mood today. When the students heard that the teacher was in a good mood today, they immediately became happy and began to complain with a smile. Last week, teacher Chien was so scary, especially the number one troublemaker student, who pitifully complained about Chien Yuman's atrocities. Chien Yuman smiled brightly, chatted happily with the students and started class. Looking at the students' reactions, she knew that they were afraid that she would be in a bad mood because they had been taught a strict lesson by her younger sister. But this is not bad. One day, this group of students gets out of control. Let her sister take her place in class to give them a good meal, so as not to be too naughty and give her a headache. The pleasant English class ended and the students left as they said goodbye. As Chien Yuman was about to enter the office, someone suddenly grabbed her hand and pulled her hard to the corner of the school. Chien Yuman saw clearly who it was, but she didn't expect it to be Tang Xingai, Tang Yu's younger brother. Why did he suddenly pull her to the corner? Tang Xingai, why are you pulling the teacher? Chien Yuman tried to pull his arm but failed, and the little boy's strength was not weak. Tang Xingai pulled Chien Yuman to the corner, with his hands on his hips and an imposing manner, gearing up as if he wanted to hit someone. What are you doing? Should I call you second sister-in-law, or should I call you teacher Chien? Chien Yuman's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that even Tang Xingai realized that the person he met before was her and not his sister? Are all the people in the Tang family fiery-eyed? However, Chien Yuman still had a calm expression on her face and looked at him with some confusion. Just when Chien Yuman was about to deny and defend, Tang Xingai spoke first. Don't deny your identity. The last time I met Chi Lili at the Tang family, it was you. When I called you teacher Chien, you covered my mouth. Moreover, your behavior was like a second-rate, not as cold and handsome as the second sister-in-law. For it. Chien Yuman was unable to respond. She felt guilty and covered his mouth. She did not dare to recall every move she made at that time. It was so embarrassing. Teacher Chien, I heard that you are the sister of my second sister-in-law. Why did you pretend to be my second sister-in-law and come to my house? What are you planning? Tang Xingai asked with narrowed eyes. Chien Yuman swallowed and took a step back, her brain working rapidly. Fun. Is it fun? I think you are plotting something. How is it possible? How could we be plotting something? It's just for fun. Don't think too much. Do you think I will believe it? Teacher Chien, Tang Xingai sneered. He didn't believe Chien Yuman's words at all, and looked at her with contempt, almost rolling his eyes at her. Tang Xingai hit the nail on the head, and Chien Yuman suddenly had a headache. Was this discovered by the third young master of the Tang family? What should he do? If he tells the Tang family that they all know that she and her sister exchanged identities to deceive the Tang family, how can they quibble and resolve this crisis? What should I do about my sister? How can I help my sister, or just shut his mouth? I am enjoying myself outside. When I have enough leisure, I will update another chapter, ha 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 ha. Don't love me too much. I haven't updated it, so just study hard and do your homework. If you don't have the endorsement of your homework, go ahead. Or read this book again. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 148. Chapter 148. The handle is in hand. Tang Xingai was very distressed when he saw that Chien Yuman's face was ugly and her facial features were almost wrinkled. Tang Xingai smiled brightly, with two small tiger teeth showing at the corners of his mouth, and raised his eyebrows in a smile. Okay, I won't embarrass you anymore. Although you and your second sister-in-law don't know what they are planning, it's none of my business. Even if you defraud my second brother of all his money, it's still your business. The premise is that you can cheating away. What's important to me is that you have something in my hands. I don't ask what you are doing, but you have to listen to me and follow my lead. Tang Xingai pointed his thumb at himself. There was no way to grab others, so it was easier to threaten them. In Tang Xingai's eyes, even if Qian Yuman and Qi Lili brought the Tang dynasty family into chaos, that would still be their ability. He doesn't care, it doesn't matter, he knows better that they can't cause any trouble at all. Their Tang dynasty family is the top family in the world, and anyone can easily cause problems, so they wouldn't be where they are today. Qian Yuman looked at Tang Xingai, her beautiful eyes looking at him carefully, trying to distinguish the truth from his words. Finally, he came to the conclusion that he was really, as he said, a simple big boy who likes to seize other people's little excuses to do evil. Qian Yuman stretched out her hand to cover her chest and looked at him eagerly. You don't want to do anything bad. Or you are attracted to the teacher's beauty. Let me tell you, the teacher refuses teacher-student love. And you also know that I, your second sister-in-law's sister, will mess up the seniority if I follow you. And it's not that you don't know that I'm married. Qian Yuman looked like he was facing a formidable enemy and received a blank look from Tang Xingai. Tang Xingai felt that his violent temper was about to explode. What are you thinking about, you idiot? Is it possible for me to fall in love with you, an old woman? Oh, Tang Xingai said with disdain, rolling his eyes until the whites of his eyes were left. Qian Yuman reached out and hit him on the head. According to her seniority, she was still his sister-in-law, but he actually called her an old woman. Tang Xingai was beaten on the head and immediately protested and screamed. You are my subordinate now. Don't use force on me. Be careful that I expose you. Qian Yuman still wanted to beat him, but in the end she had to give in. She was curious about what strange things this boy could do. Tang Xingai stretched out his hand and started counting, accepting her as a bunch of rules for his younger brother. In the next 2 months, he must be on call whenever he is called, treating him as the boss and obeying orders. After he got into trouble a few days ago, Lu Rong said that he would hire a tutor for him. How could he, who loves to play, bear it, so he asked Qian Yuman to pretend to be a tutor to help him cover up. As for other clauses, I haven't thought about them yet and will add them later. Qian Yuman is going crazy, but it's a pity that she can't refuse the possibility. Just wait until the little kid Tang Xingai loses his fun, so he can be his little brother for 2 months. Tang Xingai and Qian Yuman made an agreement to follow him home after school and serve as a tutor 3 nights a week. Qian Yuman refused at first. She would not meet Tang Yuj and the Tang family when she went to his house. She had exactly the same face as her sister. In the end, the protest was ineffective, so she had no choice but to compromise and prepare the disguise props in the afternoon. Before Qian Yuman and Tang Xingai left, they saw several young female teachers gathered at the dean's office from a distance. Qian Yuman was curious. Judging from their nymphomaniac looks, could they have fallen in love with the dean? The taste is so strong. I don't know what I'm looking at, Qian Yuman muttered. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 149. Chapter 149 Handsome Iceberg Guy. Tang Xingai took a look and immediately came to a conclusion. Su Quorong must have caused trouble again. Call his elder brother and criticize him. Brother, what's there to see when he's here? You're so handsome, Tang Xingai expressed disdain. Handsome guy? Qian Yuman's eyes shone brightly, and Dao also leaned over to see the handsome guy's trend, but was pulled away by Tang Xingai. He is not as handsome as me. If my eldest brother comes to school, he will definitely attract attention from the whole school. Unfortunately, I am a good student, unlike Su Quorong who gets into trouble all day long, either fighting or skipping classes. Qian Yuman still agrees with Tang Xingai's words. Tang Yu's appearance can indeed attract a lot of attention, and it must be more exaggerated than hers. Now Qian Yuman is a popular teacher in school. She deeply attracts teachers and students with her outstanding appearance. She will receive countless attention wherever she goes. After Qian Yuman and Tang Xingai left, in the dean's office, the dean was talking to Su Guorong's brother. With cold, emotionless eyes, he looked at the dean coldly. He was obviously young, but he felt pressured by the dean. He did not dare to speak loudly to him. His tone was friendly, but he did not look like a vicious dean. "Please, director, please discipline my younger brother," the handsome guy from Bingshan said coldly. Where, this is my responsibility." Handsome guy Bingshan slapped Su Guorong on the back of the head. "You kid doesn't study hard and gets into trouble all day long, so I came to school to hear what troubles you got into. Don't you know that your brother has a lot to do and has no time to care about you?" The handsome guy Bingshan lectured his younger brother, and it sounded to the ear of the dean, as if he was telling him not to call him to school if nothing happened. If Qian Yuman hadn't been dragged away by Tang Xingai, she would definitely have recognized who the handsome guy was who attracted countless teachers to watch. It was her senior Su Guorong who had been having an affair with her for 2 years but never got through the layer of paper, and then disappeared inexplicably, leaving her waiting for more than half a month. Qian Yuman had no classes in the afternoon and immediately ran to the market to buy equipment for herself. In order to prevent Tang Yuj from recognizing her again, she was fully prepared this time. "I bought a short wig, a casual t-shirt and trousers, a mask, and big black-rimmed glasses. I wanted to dress as low-key as I could." Knowing that Mr. Tang could tell the difference if he smelled her nearby, she also bought a bottle of perfume and sprayed it on her body to cover up the fragrance of her body. She didn't believe it. With this disguise, Mr. Tang could still tell that she was Qian Yuman. With everything ready, Qian Yuman arrived at Tang's house. Tang Xingai had been waiting at the door and smiled when he saw Qian Yuman's disguise. Walking into the villa, he saw Lu Rong, elegant, standing in the entrance hall wearing a cheongsam, looking at her with a gentle smile. "Xingai, is this the tutor you hired?" "Mom, this is a teacher from a prestigious high school that I spent a lot of money on. She graduated from the University of California." Tang Xingai flattered her, and Qian Yuman also handed over her graduation certificate to prove her high academic qualifications. Lu Rong looked at the certificate, nodded with satisfaction, and stared at her weird dress with shrewd eyes. "Why are you wearing a mask?" "Recently, I have a very serious pollen allergy on my face, and I'm afraid it will scare my wife if I expose it." Lv Rong nodded and returned the certificate to her. "Teacher, teach well. As long as Xingai's score improves by 10 places, I will reward you 10,000, 1 million if you increase to the top 100, and 3 million if you reach the top 10. Lu Rong generously offered tutoring fees. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 150. Chapter 150 Possession by a Slut. Qian Yuman's eyes lit up when he heard the terrifying family payment. As expected of a wealthy family, the reward must be too generous. Thinking of Tang Xingai's poor performance again, I felt sad. It's not easy to make money. However, there is an advantage to having poor grades, that is, every 10th place is worth 10,000, and the bottom grade can easily be greatly improved. She is naturally excited to think about adding another sum to her small treasury. Qian Yuman looked excited. "Don't worry, Mrs. Tang, I will definitely help Tang Sancheo's grades improve significantly." Arrived in the study room, Qian Yuman took off the mask from her face, took out a pile of review materials, and threw a book of math exercises at Tang Xingai. "As much as you can do in half an hour." Tang Xingai was still lying on the sofa, not wanting to move at all. "If you don't do it, have you forgotten that you were invited by me to cover?" Qian Yuman glanced at him, took out a slender stick in his hand, and slammed the table. "Come here and do the questions, or I will tell your mother about your conspiracy. Anyway, I will be kicked out of the Tang family at most if I am found out, and you will definitely be grounded if you are found out." How could Tianyuman be willing to suffer a loss and let her just obey his orders and be his little brother? There is a tragedy that goes as high as the road and as high as the devil. The worst is that the fish will die and the net will be broken. At first she didn't think much about taking tutoring seriously, but when she heard about the high tutoring fees, she immediately perked up. "You!" Tang Xingai jumped up from the sofa angrily. Dao rushed over to fight. Tianyuman hit him on the head with the retractable stick in his hand. "What do you want to do? You can let me cover, but you have to spend 1 hour in class every day. Don't think about it, your grades haven't improved at all, and I will be replaced in less than half a month. So I have 2 hours of tutoring every day. We must spend an hour studying hard," Tianyuman requested, not allowing Tang Xingai to protest. Tang Xingai angrily picked up the exercises and screamed with a headache when he saw mathematics. He succumbed to Tianyuman's power and could only do the exercises. Tang Xingai was doing some homework. Tianyuman looked at him and walked to the study room carrying a small bag. Like a little thief, Tianyuman looked around to make sure there was no one, then walked towards a men's bedroom with a straight body. Tianyuman has long asked about Tang Yu's bedroom. Now that she has entered the Tang family as a tutor, isn't it just to give her a good condition to investigate Mr. Tang? Of course she wanted to make good use of it. Arrived in the bedroom, Tianyuman leaned on the door and listened for a few seconds to make sure there was no sound inside. She held the doorknob and looked around to make sure no one had slipped in immediately. After entering, she closed the door. After making sure there was no one in the room, Tianyuman happily jumped onto Tang Yu's big bed when she saw the European-style bedroom and the white bed. I rolled twice on the bed, buried my face in the quilt, and took a deep breath. It smelled like Mr. Tang. At this moment, Tianyuman was like a pervert, taking a deep breath with some greed, rolling around on Tang Yu's bed happily. Ah! It would be a lie to say that I don't miss him. During the last period of my stay in San Francisco, I could wake up in Mr. Tang's arms every day. Lying on Tang Yu's bed, Tianyuman felt a little drowsy and almost fell asleep. If Tang Yu fell asleep and saw a strange woman lying on his bed when he came back, he would definitely throw her out as a bitch. Plus, she came to Mr. Tang's room for a purpose today, but was distracted by the soft big bed. Tianyuman sat up from the bed. End of this chapter.